Jordan wanted me to make a video on how to memorize programming. So the different code that you use for Python, CSS, Java, whatever it may be, it's the same concept. I've actually taken Python, so I could talk through the process of memorizing Python because I know it actually, well, the basics. So the first thing is you need to know how code is written. So you have an idea, right? I want to make a list. What's the code in order to execute that? Here's the code. And so that's the process of coding, right? You want to do something. What's the code in order to do that? And the more you understand that, it's a lot easier for you to actually start coding and start memorizing everything. Because the way I would want to memorize this is by using a memory palace. Now, I would group all the similar commands in one palace. So right now, Python list. All of these different commands, all these different codes belong to list of some sort. To change a list, maybe to make a special type of list, whatever it may be. And so I would put one specific command in one location. And the reason I would categorize all the code in this specific way is because if I'm trying to work on lists, I'm like, hey, how do I do this to a list? Oh yeah, my house has all the commands to the list. And so it's really easy to find what you need, right? And so all these different topics for the other commands, they will have their own memory palace. All right, so that's the first thing. I would create a palace depending on how many different commands I want to memorize, and pretty much I'm good to go from there. So the next step is you would have to change what the command is. Yeah, what the command is. Okay, like a list. I want to create a list. Change that into an image of some sort. So let's say it's the living room is my first location. I have a list. Maybe it's like Santa Claus naughty or nice list. Okay, so I'll picture a list of some sort there. Boom, got it. Next is, and it's probably the harder part, the code in order to execute this command, okay? Because this right here, you have to have this exactly as you're seeing it right now, or else the code doesn't work. So right here we have brackets, right? If you don't have brackets and you have parentheses, it's not gonna work, all right? And so coding is so picky. If something's not right, it doesn't work. Even if you have something capitalized, it's not supposed to be capitalized, it's not going to work. And so this is like, you need to know it exactly as it is, or else it won't work. So that's why the code itself is the hardest part. This, the command, it's just random words, right? Which is great. So, okay, list, Santa Claus list, got that. Boom. Okay, code. Now, I would probably keep it simple. Apple, banana, cherry. You could just use the alphabet system, be like A, B, C. Just so you can use your current system that you have. You might need to create some symbol. You might have to create a symbol system because if you already know what image you're gonna use for commas, brackets, parentheses, whatever it may be, quotes, it goes a little bit faster, right? And so so maybe for this I would put grocery list. I'm just using an example for this, right? So grocery list. So maybe I see this list and maybe it's going into a whole bunch of food in this bag. And maybe there's like pudding or something, so I got all over the list, right? And so equals, equals a picture of a shotgun. And so I see this grocery list, or this grocery bag, it has all this food and Santa's list is going into it. I shoot the grocery bag, okay? Now, brackets. I think of a box, right? You put them together, kind of looks like a box. And so, shoot this list, it explodes, and maybe this box that's on the couch or maybe on the coffee table, it catches hey, we could just use alphabet system, right? Maybe have apple, banana, cherry for your images. It catches an apple, banana, and a cherry in this box. Okay, quotes. Quotes. Maybe I think of an ornament of some sort. Okay? But you gotta remember, you could have a single quote, right? Just one little dash, or you can have two, which is a completely different thing when it comes to coding. And so, for me, maybe I think of like an ornament for two ticks for a quote, and then for one tick, I think of like tinsel. Okay? So it's kind of however you want to do it. And then, of course, a comma has to separate all the different items within the list. So a comma, maybe I think of like a boomerang. Kind of looks like a boomerang, right? And so maybe I see the fruit, or I guess it is a fruit. All these are fruits. So in this box, I see the fruit and I toss this boomerang and it cuts them all open and maybe all these Christmas ornaments break and drop to the floor. Now, for you, it might seem like it's a little bit more difficult because it's not your imagery that you're coming up with, and that makes sense, right? Your own images, would be the best. But so let's say, you have to actually run the code. It will look something like this. But here you would have to type it. Can I change it? No, I cannot change this code. And so, yeah, I can't have it right on it. And so let's say I had to write this list. I'm like, okay, I want to write a list that has apple, banana, and cherry in it. Why not? And so I'm like, okay, so in my living room, oh yeah, so the Santa's Claus list was going to a grocery bag. Okay, so that's the example, grocery. Okay, I shot it with shotgun, so it's gonna be equals. And then all the food exploded, but then in this box we had an apple, banana, and cherry land in it. Okay, and then I tossed a boomerang at it. Okay, so that means that comma has to separate all the items in the list. Got it. Oh, and then when the boomerang cut them all, a whole bunch of ornaments down. Oh yeah, Christmas ornaments. It makes me think of quotes. Okay, they have to be in quotes. So in order to write the code, I would have to have, grocery equals bracket, quote, apple, end quote. I'll just say quote just to make it a little easier. Comma, banana, or quote, banana, comma, quote, cherry. And then end bracket. Got it. And then I guess depending on how far you are in coding, you might need to memorize in order to print the list you just created. It has to be print, parentheses, whatever your list name is. And so it all varies on how far you are with code. Because if you're just starting out, there's going to be a lot of memorization for everything. Because you need to know how everything is done. But of course, like the video I talked about using equations or memorizing equations, the more you do it, it becomes a lot easier. So print list, because you're going to do this so many times, it's just going to be second nature to you. If you want something to print, it's going to be, print list, of course. But the different aspects of how to affect a list or how to do these different commands, that changes a lot. So right here, now in the second location to my memory palace, I would do this. So this is access items. So what's happening here is that you want to print only one specific item from the list. So in coding, it starts 0, 1, 2. So this would print a banana because it's the first one, right? 0, 1, 2. And so essentially you would do the exact same process I explained. Now the great thing is everything you're doing in this palace is list based, right? So all the commands have to do with list. So the very first location has the most basic list. All I'm doing now is I'm changing something in the list. So say if I want to change or want to print something from the list, all I have to do is memorize this part now. I don't have to memorize this part again because this first location, the first example I did, has it. So it's redundant to do the same thing over again because all you're doing is how do I recall a specific item from the list? And of course that comes from creating an image for this, right? And then okay, all I have to do is say print and then whatever list item I want. And so it would be the grocery list. So maybe in the second location it's a table. So I see grocery, because that's the example I'm using, right? Grocery. And then maybe this box, I don't know, pushes me over and starts tossing, a sun at me, and then a shoe at me, and then a tree at me. Because of their numbers, right? So I'm like, okay, by seeing this when I'm typing, okay, I want to print maybe a specific value from this list I had. Okay, at the table I have my groceries, and then this box pushed me over and started tossing a one or a sun at me, and a shoe at me, and a tree at me. Oh, that's right. So to write the code, it would be print whatever the list name is, so grocery, and then it's a box, bracket, and then it was tossing sun, shoe, tree. Oh, that's the different numbers in the list. Okay, and so grocery, bracket, 3, well, I guess 2, bracket, because there's no 3 in this list, right? And so if I did that, it would print cherry. And so that's how I would go through and start memorizing different commands and programming essentially. And for me, because the first time I learned Python, I didn't do much. I used some memory techniques here and there, but it was very messy. This is a lot easier because now everything's just changing something. So right here, change item value. Now, it's kind of all building off each other, which is really fantastic. I know this video is long, but just bear with me. So here, this, as we just did in the previous command, we picked a specific item from the list. Here, now we have the specific item from the list, but now we're changing it. So now this is the new part, right? And so you don't have to keep memorizing every single thing in order for the code to make sense. You want to try to be smart when you're learning and memorizing information. The first location that had the first command, everything's being built off that, and so it makes it so much easier because now you're just memorizing the new code for the new command you want to execute. And so pretty much that's the whole process you would do in order to start learning and remembering code, because at the end of the day, that's all you really need to do. Yes, depending on how much you get into coding, there might be a new realm of it. I don't know what it is, but for at least basic stuff, I want to do this. What's the code for that? I want to make a list. How do I do that? Oh yeah, it was in my first location. I want to print a specific item in my list. Oh yeah, that was in the second location. Boom. And so you go from there. But yeah, so Jordan, hopefully this answers your question. I know it was a long video. But yeah, that's what I would do in order to memorize coding, programming a lot easier. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.